we've already discussed this morning that the political situation in France is highly uncertain. Left-wing alliances are being formed between unlikely bedfellows in an attempt to keep Marine Le Pen and her national rally out of power. However, some in President Macron's camp refuse to join such alliances, with some saying that they would prefer Marine Le Pen and her Prime Minister Jordan Bardella over Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the de facto leader of the left-wing coalition. How would the results affect France's foreign policy, especially with regard to Ukraine? Well, to analyse this, we're joined by Nicolas Tenzer. He's director of the Centre of Study and Reflection, Political Action. Welcome, Mr. Tenzer.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Now, you said recently that if the National Rally won a majority in the Assembly, it would block any budget support for Ukraine, which would result in the country being, and I quote, completely sacrificed. Do you still hold that view?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that if the National Rally wins the elections, basically France would become a Russian captured state. Because we know that many of the members of the National Rally have a very close links to Russia. Some were, in observation missions of so-called election in Russia or occupied Crimea. Many met some intelligence officers of Russia, and it's very clear because it was stated very clearly by both Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella that then they won't provide any more long-range missiles to Ukraine. They won't send military instructors to Ukraine, as Macron has promised just before the snap elections were decided. They won't also certainly allow all the budgetary transfers to the EU and also all the budgetary spending. So it means basically that they will throw Ukraine under the bus. There is absolutely no mystery there. But there is one more point. The point is that if we consider the very ideology of the National Rally in France, it really resembles Putin's one. Basically, they have the same contempt for the rule of law, the same contempt for the international law, for the international relations. And basically, it's absolutely certain, even if Marine Le Pen rolls out her intentions, that France will one day or another leave the EU, because I think there will be absolutely no, I will say, possibility to have the kind of measures that Marine Le Pen wants to take in France in terms of rule of law and also the EU regulation, especially the Charter of Fundamental Rights. So basically, it will mean a lot, and certainly it was in the program of the National Rally, in 2022. It is quite certain that France will leave either the NATO or at least the military command of NATO.
Interesting. Well, you paint a rather grey picture, but Jordan Bardella has said that if he does become Prime Minister, he would hold up the commitments that France already has on an international basis. Has he really changed his view, in your opinion, or is this for cosmetic purposes only?
No, I think that's basically cosmetic purposes, certainly, because, in the sentence that you rightly quoted, he said as well, for the time being, we will maintain, our commitments. For the time being, what does it mean? And at the same time, he said that he won't take any escalatory measures against Russia, that we have to prevent co-belligerence. And that's exactly the kind of sentences directly coming from the Russian playbook. So it means that basically they will say, the hand on the heart, they will say, okay, we will continue to support Ukraine, but in the reality, they won't do so. I think that's perfectly clear. If we consider also many other points, of the program of the National Rally, there is absolutely no constancy. There are a lot of changes, and it's quite impossible to trust them. on this point.
Understood. Now, again, clearly, something that is cause for concern, but 33.1% of votes cast went to the national rally. Would you put that enormous result down to?
No. I think that's absolutely huge because, we could explain that there is a huge dissatisfaction in France, which is not completely new, a kind of resentment towards the so-called elites. They have the feeling of many people that the classic political class, which means basically both the social democrats, the center and the conservative, basically do not pay attention to their grievances, their yearnings, their fears, their expectations. That's absolutely certain. But you mentioned 33%. That's right. But it means also that basically you have 63% of the French people voting against the national rally. It means for mostly democratic parties. So I think, you see that many French people are both very angry towards the government, and certainly a majority of people, certainly 70%, but at the same time, they are not certainly supporting the national rally and consider with, I will say, a great concern and fear the possibility of a far-right victory.
Understood. As you say, almost 70% don't support national rally, but that 70% is divided, is it not, between Macron's centrist bloc and the left wing. In your opinion, do you think that the left-wing parties can form a sufficiently strong coalition to make a difference in this second round?
Well, I think I think that the left-wing coalition won't, because the left-wing coalition, but we will see tonight only, could grasp, certainly more seats than Macron's parties and allies. But it won't be sufficient to form a big majority. The unknown right now is what will be also within the left coalition, the share of the far left party, La France Insoumise, from Jean-Luc Mélenchon. That's one uncertainty, because if we have, and I think it will be certainly a kind of a good thing for me, if we have the Democratic Party, which means basically the Socialists, the Greens, plus some others without the far left, plus Macron's allies, plus the, I will say, moderate conservative, able to form a kind of national coalition. Certainly, I think it will save the situation, because then both the far right and the radical left will be completely sidelined. But we will see only tonight if it's possible, if there is a true willingness to do so. Because if so, it will mean that we have also a new experience in France, the German know, which is what they call the Große Koalition, a grand coalition. And certainly it will be create a new climate in France, more aptitude to make compromises, and certainly in terms of support to Ukraine, it will be also a very, very good move.
Understood. That seems to hang together, but practically speaking, sir, these are unlikely bedfellows, aren't they? Getting them to agree on any policy is likely to be quite an achievement. How effective will they be against the national rally, which is unified certainly more than they are?
Well, I see it's very difficult right now to predict. It will depend also of the responsibility of the main political leaders. But I think you have two things to add on that. The first thing is certainly that President Macron right now has absolutely no credit within his own party. If you see figures like Gabriel Attal, the prime minister, one of the key leaders of what they call Horizon's party, the former Prime Minister Edouard Philippe, and most of the MPs from Macron's party, they consider that to call for snap election was a kind of folly. So they do not trust them. They have a resentment against him. It means that certainly they will be likely by themselves also to search new opportunities to form a coalition, because basically Macron's party in itself is completely dead. So then I think it will be also a possibility also for the Greens, for the Socialists, and also from the people of the far left party. I mean, Mélenchon's party, who certainly are exasperated by the authoritarianism of their leaders, also to create to take the chance to create something new. I think we have very special moments in France, and certainly we will see if they will seize the opportunity to make something new, and also to reassure, I mean, part of the electorate, because otherwise, if the people are not convinced, if you have the chaos in France, in the months and 2 years to come, then certainly it will be a kind of good scent for Marine Le Pen for the presidential election in 2027.
Indeed. Now, you mentioned the presidential election. The last few seconds that we have left, Mrs. Tenzer. Now, clearly, President Macron made a bit of a miscalculation by calling these snap elections. I think this was not the result he was hoping for. What's going to happen then? I mean, sooner or later, he's going to be out of the picture. Who replaces him?
For the moment, it's very difficult to say. I think that's a personal opinion that during, the campaign and very few months as a prime minister, that Gabriel Attal, also a very young politician, appeared to have the status of a statement. He take very good decisions. He was able to dramatize this very moment. He was able also to oppose, in some points, Emmanuel Macron's views, because, for instance, you had Emmanuel Macron, who didn't call so explicitly for what we call Republican Front, which is the alliance between all the parties to defeat the far right. Gabriel Attal did. So I think Gabriel Attal will be certainly, I think, a good candidate. Personally, I don't trust Edouard Philippe, who appears to be mostly a kind of all-state politicians. But Gabriel Attal could make it. But of course, it's quite unpredictable right now.
Quite unpredictable indeed, but it sounds as though you've got your money on Gabriel Attal.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed for sharing your analysis with our audience today, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye now.